Yo, what's good? It's your man, 100 grand Ross with the Rock Never Stops. The Detroit Pistons get a win against the Charlotte Hornets tonight. And for the first time, can I dare say, they look like an NBA team. I want to dive into that in this video. If you enjoy it, smash that like button for me. Hit subscribe and the bell for notifications. This has been a fun road with y'all, covering the Detroit Pistons. They've been kind of one of my unspoken teams that I wanted to follow this season and just their trajectory and development. It's been really exciting. And what has been interesting to note is how people have been very quick to really kind of lose faith in the Pistons organization and their head coach in particular, Monte Williams. Some people started off, giving them slack, giving them room. Some people started off questioning the hire of Monte Williams. And some people started off mildly optimistic. But I would say through and through, for the majority of the conversation I saw around this team, most of the expectations were completely delusional. And I want to start with that because in order to really understand where they are today, I think there has to be somewhat of a transparent understanding of where they were beginning. They were starting off the season as the youngest active roster in the NBA. And I mean by far. Almost completely all of their veteran players, Bojan Bogdanovic, Monte Morris, Joe Harris, were all starting the season injured for a significant stretch. And they were sporting a team that had, at most, 2 seasons of experience in terms of their starting lineup, in terms of the majority of their bench. This was an extremely young team. And what I cautioned people early on was to say that young teams don't win, but even less so teams that are still developing and figuring out who they are in this league. Even when you have all-world talents, they still need time to develop. And they need veterans to fill in the gaps of the holes of the things that they haven't learned yet. And so my expectation early on was that their win total would be in the late teens, early 20s at the most. But I saw some predictors who were saying 30s, outside looking into the play-in. And I was like, come on now. If you do that to yourself, you're going to set yourself up for frustration and disappointment throughout most of the season. And that's what I've seen. You see, when you have the outlook that they were in a developmental season, that the Detroit Pistons were trying to, as they said, some of y'all don't listen. Some of y'all listen, but hear what you want to hear. And they said, the reason why we're not going to make any major moves this offseason is because we still don't know what we have yet. So we want to dedicate this season to seeing what we have in terms of talent. And there's a lot of talent on this roster. There was even more talent when they had Marvin Bagley III and they had Isaiah Livers. I mean, we see Marvin Bagley III is balling out in Washington right now. I mean, albeit Washington is a losing team and, kind of good stats, bad team type of stigma. But it's to say that his talent is apparent. I think Isaiah Livers was too, even though he took a while to get his jump shot and never quite came around. But it's to say that there was going to have to be a sifting process. There was going to have to be time spent playing guys in different roles and positions to figure out how close they were to being a cornerstone piece for the developmental future of this team. Because most teams understand that you can have maybe 2 to 3 high-level young players that you're fully invested in. Number 4 generally gets cast to the wayside. They just can't either afford them or there's not enough room for them. And this has been consistent throughout history. Even Oklahoma City, the reason why it works is because Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is already on that max contract extension. And you have Jalen Williams and you have Chet Holmgren and Josh Giddey and, Le Guin's Dort is already re-signed. But then you have guys like Case and Wallace, right? And I guarantee you Oklahoma City is looking at that roster and saying, we're going to have to start trimming the fat sooner than later. And they're going to ride out this season, but they're going to start trimming the fat over the next couple of years. And that's what I did in another video that the Detroit Pistons were going to be doing. I also did a video that said, hey, let Monty Williams cook. And don't worry, I'll put these videos in the description box so you don't think I'm just bluffing with all this. That they needed to give him time. They needed to give the head coach time to see who could play winning basketball, what their learning curve was going to be like, what roles on a winning team was actually going to be like for them. And so he demanded that they play winning basketball. And some of you got frustrated because Jaden Ivey wasn't getting a lot of playing time. But as you see, as the veterans are returning, this is who he is. He's not a starter yet on an NBA team. He's not a starter for an NBA team that has playoff aspirations. He's not there yet. He's been playing out of order or out of his, not role as much as his position since he got to Detroit. He's been asked to play point guard out of necessity because Cade Cunningham got hurt. And then this season, with Cade in and out of the lineup and a lack of talent and veteran presence, he's had to play more of a facilitator, playmaker, table setter role, which is not who he is. And as a result, he's been exposed. And you have a veteran coach who's been to the NBA Finals, who's been in various stops before and had success. Look, if you've been to the playoffs multiple times with multiple teams, you are a successful coach, whether you've won a championship or not. You know, let's not do the whole recency bias thing and just think because, you know, he got let go from Phoenix that he was unsuccessful there. He was highly successful because most coaches never see the NBA Finals. But it's to say that it's hard to tell him to be okay with non-winning basketball, to be okay with a guard who you're telling needs to start and be a primary facilitator who still struggles with decision-making and dribbles the ball off his foot, that's the guy he's supposed to put the ball in his hands, especially when you have a Killian Hayes who has one of the best assist-to-turnover ratios in the NBA. You see, that's winning basketball, even if he's not scoring a lot. You see, coaches who are veterans understand this, but it doesn't mean that there's not room to grow and then that there's not nuances. There's a gray area. And I think he's found the gray area with Jaden Ivey. And as the veterans come and get healthier, what you're seeing is that he's wisely, because if you understand Monty Williams, if you followed him from New Orleans to Phoenix, you understand that Monty Williams is not a high-level offensive coach. He's a game manager, team foundation setter, creates a identity, holds guys accountable, brings continuity, and makes sure that guys are playing together. That's who he is, and he does it extremely well. But he relies upon veterans who understand how to play offense to execute and even fill in the wrinkles, fill in the gaps for him. And so when you see now Monte Morris returning, and you see Killian Hayes, and you see Mike Muscala, and you see Bojan Bogdanovic, you begin to see guys who understand how to play, Danilo Gallinari, who understand where to be, how to make the simple play, the correct simple play, and that 3-4 simple plays in one possession equals an open shot. That's good offense, knowing where to be, spacing, and how to move off the ball. These are things that young guys haven't learned yet. But you saw all of that come together in this game against the Charlotte Hornets. You saw a level of smoothness, especially when Monte Morris came in the game. But even Killian Hayes started things off well. Hey, we get it. He's never going to be a 20-point per game scorer. He's never going to be the guy who dominates getting to the rim. He's never going to be that. But if you're telling me that I can have a point guard while I wait to get my starting franchise point guard back or figure out who that's going to be for the future, and my fill-in can get me 8 assists on only 1 turnover, hell yes. Hell yes. He shot 66.7% from the field. Hit 1 of 2 threes, 2 of 3 from the field. That's highly efficient. He had a +4 plus-minus rating, right? Now, I know that's not flashy. I know that doesn't scream takeover and superstar. I get that. But you got to get past the bells and whistles because like I said from the beginning, and what was echoed was that this team was still figuring themselves out and what they have and what they don't have and what they need. And so the journey has been observing how they figure out who is going to fit where. This is the reason why Marvin Bagley was able to get so many minutes, because they needed to figure him out sooner than later, because they had to figure out who they wanted to keep between him and James Wiseman. They needed to figure out with Isaiah Livers who he could be to up their trade value. And he got back some veterans, got back some salary cap that he'll be able to dump. He got back some guys who can help teach and be in the right place and make a difference. Mike Muscala is making a difference. You see, this is chess, not checkers, y'all. And I know that's a highly sometimes overused statement, but it really is apropos in this situation. Y'all are just looking for wins. You want to win. I get it, but you're not going to win without veterans who know how to win in the NBA. And if you don't have those veterans healthy, then what are your expectations? You see, and I think that that's where a lot of the Piston fans have been dismayed and disappointed because of missed expectations. But that was on y'all, because that nobody ever told y'all from the front office they expected to make the playoffs. Why did you? They never said they were planning and pursuing to make the play-in tournament. Why was that your outlook? They never even mentioned it as a potential scenario. They knew the growing pains. But as you saw with this game against Charlotte, this was a complete game. Probably for the first time that I'm seeing a team put it together. And of course, it coincides with getting the veterans to fill in the gaps. You can minimize Jaden Ivey still figuring things out. You know why? Because in the closing minutes, he wasn't playing. He's not ready for that role. And so you saw the execution. You saw the team come together. You saw guys filling in. Alec Burks, Bojan Bogdanovic. You saw Asar Thompson in the perfect role for him, being the on-ball defender to slow down the LaMelo Ball, which he did admirably. Miles Bridges, his ability to help and dig in on drives and recover and close out to the perimeter and stay with them when they try to drive. I mean, it was spectacular. He got in on the rebounds, got out in transition, played off the ball. If anything, I want to see that role expanded, as I've said before, to be able to move more off the ball, especially in half-court offense and not just stand in a corner. But even then, you saw guys fall into place. Jalen Duren fell into place. Isaiah Stewart, man, you continue to see why Monte Williams, head coach Monte Williams, loves him. Because you saw the whole time he's directing traffic on the defensive end. He's telling Jalen Duren where to be. Because Duren's not there yet to be that defensive lead, and they need that. They need that guy. And as much as I see his future as a backup center, splitting minutes with Duren for the next few years, I don't think they have another guy who can lead the defense, not play high-level defense. I think Asar can play extremely high-level defense, but he's not ready yet to tell everybody what to do and where to be and hold them accountable. There was even a time where Asar made the wrong gamble and tried to steal the ball from Bridges, and Bridges kicked the ball out. Well, I don't know if it was on Bridges, but he kicked it out to Asar's man wide open in the corner because he gambled. And immediately Isaiah Stewart was like, yo, don't gamble. Just stay home. I got him. And he did. He did have him. But he held Asar accountable, and he came back and was able to close out the game because he stayed home. He did his role. He stayed within himself and didn't try to do too much. You see, this team is coming together, and they're growing, they're developing, they are improving. And if you don't see it, then you're not really watching. They're getting better, and I can't wait until Cade Cunningham gets back and having these veterans at his disposal and guys in the roles that they should be in. You see, you can kind of understand when Monte Williams got this job that he was anticipating coaching this type of a team with veterans who knew what to do. And he wouldn't be relying upon a Jaden Ivey who's not ready or a Cade Cunningham who's still getting his legs back. He wouldn't be relying on these guys to be major contributors, but with all the injuries he had to it. But yet you guys are still assessing him as if this was the outlook of the team. Instead of saying, hey, it's an opportunity to give guys a chance to show what they can do But when the veterans get back, we know the difference. And some of y'all don't know the difference. But hopefully today against the Charlotte Hornets, you guys saw the difference. Their execution, ability to move the ball, even recognize that Bojan Bogdanovic and Alec Burks still got it, right? Monte Morris, right, still has it. He still has the bag that they can go to. You see, some of y'all, you guys forget that all these guys used to be the man back in college, the man back in their home country, the man on their national team, the man their whole lives. They got a bag. They can do what they do, but we know that they're not the all-star. They're not the superstar, but it don't mean that they're not really good. And so Monty Williams understands that, hey, if we give these guys an opportunity to maximize what they can do, it takes so much pressure off of our young guys and allows them to play within the roles that allow them to develop, especially in who they're likely going to be for the rest of their careers. And I told you at the beginning of the season that Jaden Ivey is a future Eric Gordon. Right? He's going to be that type of a player, not a point guard, but an off guard who can space the floor, get out in transition, attack the rim on closeouts, and make the read. But he's not going to be a full-time point guard. But this was a great game. This was the first complete game. This was the first game that I said, yo, this is an NBA team. This is a team that's going to do a good job of beating the teams that they should be beating, which is the Washington Wizards, which is the Charlotte Hornets, and others. And so, as always, I want to know what you all think of this game. I was excited. It was a good game. You saw some great offense moving around. The defense improved. They were able to hang in there, dig deep, and you saw the veterans who knew what to do and the young guys following lead. This was a good game, and I'm happy for them to dig it out. But as always, I want to know what you all think. Get at me in the comments section. If you enjoyed the video, smash that like button for me. Hit subscribe and the bell for notifications. And I'm out. Peace.